Welcome back. Today, we will discuss a film that has attracted the attention of many people, namely the one entitled Save. This film is not only entertaining, but also touches on various important issues that are relevant to our lives today. I myself have watched this film several times because it is very inspiring, and for those of you who like to cook or maybe like to watch MasterChef movies, maybe you will also like this one film. Without further ado, let's go straight to the explanation of the storyline. The main character of this film is named Chef Carl Kasper. He is a famous chef and has worked at a famous restaurant for more than 10 years. And almost everyone knows Carl's name because his cooking is famous for being very delicious. You could say that he spent his entire life in the kitchen with his two assistant chefs named Martin and Tony. They are both very loyal kitchen colleagues. And because his entire life was spent in the kitchen, he lost other important things in his life, namely his family, his child, his wife, and even his own happiness, because he divorced his wife. He didn't know his own child well, and even Carl didn't know what could actually make him happy. And long story short, that night there would be a food critic from a famous media who would come and criticize the menu and dishes at the restaurant where Carl worked. Carl had prepared everything, and he was sure about his new menu, which was super delicious. But right in the middle of the preparation, the restaurant owner named Riva came to the kitchen and told Carl not to change the menu tonight, and told Carl to cook the same menu that was served every day at the restaurant, because the restaurant owner thought that was the famous menu at the restaurant. But Carl had a different opinion. He felt that the menu had been served at the restaurant for more than 10 years every day, and the food critic had also tasted the menu before. So Carl had to make something new that was different from the previous one. And of course, the night before, Carl had tried and succeeded in making a more delicious menu. But the debate between Carl as the chef and Rifa as the restaurant owner ended with a decision still in the hands of Rifa as the owner, and Carl that night had to continue serving the same food menu. Long story short, the food critic came named Ramsey. His full name is Ramsey Michel, let's just call him Ramsey, and he tried the food. Then Ramsey wrote in various media such as the blog, website, Twitter, and other culinary media that the food cooked by Carl that night was not tasty. The chocolate was lacking, it was boring, and the menu was the same as what the critic had eaten 10 years ago. Reading Ramsey Carl's writing, I was immediately down because he dedicated his whole life as a chef. But it turned out that his cooking was disappointing. Then Chef Carl didn't sleep and didn't go home and spent the whole night cooking and trying to make new dishes as delicious as possible. Without realizing it, it was already morning, and Martin and Tony, his assistant chefs who had just come to the kitchen, immediately tried Chef Carl's new dish. And everyone was shocked because it was really delicious. Carl's two assistants said that the criticism from the food critic yesterday was a trending topic on Twitter now. But because Chef Carl didn't have Twitter and didn't know what Twitter was, he just ignored it. Then that night after coming home from work, Carl was at home with his son, and Carl then asked his son to create a Twitter account and teach him how to use it. It turned out that when they just opened Twitter, they were both shocked because there were so many comments about Chef Carl's cooking in the article. Written by the food critic Ramsey, many of whom made bad comments and insulted Chef Carl too. Finally, Chef Carl challenged Ramsey to come back tonight to his restaurant, and he would cook his best dish. As a result, Twitter was full of retweets and it became a trending topic. Finally that night, the restaurant was full of visitors. Many people booked tables. That night became the busiest night in the restaurant since the restaurant was established. Carl had prepared his best menu, and in the middle of the preparation, Rivai, the owner of the restaurant, said that Carl had to cook the same menu as usual and it could not be changed at all. Carl was shocked because everyone who came to the restaurant that night was because of his and Ramsey's match. But he was not allowed to cook his own food. An argument ensued, and the peak was Carl left the kitchen and quit his job. But when he invited his two loyal assistants, Tony and Martin, to come out too, unfortunately the two people who were most loyal to Carl so far chose to stay at the restaurant, and finally Carl left alone. Ramsey came, who was ready to try Chef Carl's new dish, but instead he was served the same dish as yesterday, and he didn't see Carl at all in the kitchen. Finally Ramsey wrote on Twitter that Carl was afraid to compete with him and was a coward. And when Carl just got home and he read Ramsey's Twitter, Carl finally got emotional and went back to the restaurant and got angry there and made a mess in the restaurant. There were many visitors who recorded it, and the video went viral. Carl's good name was ruined. After leaving the restaurant, he didn't get any job offers from any restaurant, and he was unemployed. Now he was offered by an agent to be the main chef on the TV show Hell's Kitchen. According to the agent, Hell's Kitchen fits Carl's way of getting angry yesterday. But Carl didn't want to and refused the offer. Carl was also offered by his ex-wife to open a food truck and didn't want to. The point is, he only wanted to work in the restaurant and didn't want to be anywhere else. Oh yeah, his ex-wife's name is Ines and her son's name is Verzi, guys. Okay, long story short, Ines and Verzi wanted to go to Miami. Well, then Ines asked to come along. Later Carl would be paid by Ines. there his job was only told to take care of his own child, because Ines had worked there and didn't have time to take care of Verzi. There too, for the first time, Verzi felt like having a vacation with all her complete family, and Verzi just saw another side of Carl for the first time, such as Carl's dancing and so on. Time passed and Carl began to ponder why he didn't just accept Ines's offer to open a food truck, and everything was also funded by Ines. Finally Carl agreed and the truck came, but the condition of the truck was really bad, guys, because it was probably a used car, and long story short, Carl and his son cleaned everything up together. After everything was clean and tidy, Carl thought that he would have a hard time cooking in the kitchen alone with only Verzi's help. Suddenly, Martin came, one of his former assistants in the kitchen, who said he wanted to join Carl's food truck because he was fed up with Riva's restaurant that. And yes, the three of them finally started opening a food truck right away, with customers being the workers around the place. In this film, what I like is that there are so many lessons from a chef whose life is only for cooking. There are so many words from Carl that really hit home, like when he taught his son to bake bread, but Carl said your whole life now is in the bread and the grill. If your grill is messed up, then your whole world will be messed up too. There I really learned about the meaning of focus and totality, because it also taught me that imperfect cooking means that the cooking is also not worthy of being given to other people. Even Carl allowed his 10-year-old son to drink beer, guys, crazy. But because the beer tasted bad, Verzi vomited and threw away his own beer bottle. Then Carl said that now you know the taste of beer, so from now on if a friend offers you beer, you know what to do. Okay, let's continue the story. The food truck's journey continued. The truck stopped from city to city and opened at every place the truck stopped. And every time they stop in a different city, the menu will also be different, guys. But Carl feels strange. Why is it always crowded and people are queuing every time they open? Even though the car has just been parked, it turns out that during the trip his son, Verzi, always uploads photos of posts to social media to promote. As a result, the food truck from Chef Carl, whose video of him getting angry at the restaurant went viral and everyone wanted to try Carl's food truck. Carl was surprised that his son was good at marketing. Day after day passed and the son asked Carl's permission to make a 1-second video every day, or what is usually called 1 second every day, which would later be combined and become a long memory video. Then after a long trip from Miami and was close and about to arrive at his house, Carl told his son that the school holidays would be over soon, and both of them would return to their respective lives. Verzi would be busy with school and Carl would be busy running his food truck. But Verzi cried and didn't want to be separated and still wanted to help his father every Sunday or every school holiday. But because he didn't allow it, Verzi, who had never felt that close to his father since he was little but now had to be separated again, cried. But he could still accept his father's decision. So when he got home and was separated, Carl reflected and felt lonely again after being separated from his son. Then not long after, his son sent Carl's email the video results of his 1 second every day and the attitude of the audience, all the memories with his son while being touched. Finally Carl changed his mind and called his son, namely Verzi, and said that his son could help Carl at the food truck every weekend or every school holiday. Then Ines, Carl's ex-wife, also seemed to have quit her job, guys, and now helps work at the food truck as a waitress. Not long after, when they were all working, suddenly Ramsey came, a food critic who used to have an argument with him, and the two of them then chatted, and Ramsey explained that all the teasing from Ramsey before was just a job demand, because to be popular, online media needs something that can go viral. But Ramsey didn't really mean to insult Carl, because he thought it was all just a joke and fun, replying to retweets on Twitter. Ramsey didn't think that Carl would get really angry, guys. And now Ramsey has just sold his culinary website and he just got a lot of money, and he also bought a restaurant and he asked Chef Carl to be the chef in his restaurant. Of course it's different from Rifa, the previous owner of the restaurant. Ramsey allows Carl to cook whatever dishes he wants and that he likes. And at the end of the film it closes with Chef Carl and Ines reconciling and remarrying. Finally Carl, Ines and Verzi, the three of them, can live happily together again.
basement apartment I rented with you. Remembering the holiday party we had with the crew. Romeo was roaming the garden. Saturday was spent in a parking lot. Gave it all we got. It was so with you. Following the leader down 8th Street to get what we can. Crawl up the walls, make a few calls to